No? Okay guys, I noticed that a lot of you were having trouble with your full value rendering in your egg drawing with your paper. Full value rendering means that there's no contour lines left. It's all just full value, relative lightness and darkness of the objects. So I wanted to real quickly show you how you can get rid of some of those contour lines. So let's say that this image is the image that you were doing. You have your egg here, and you'll notice I'm going to kind of turn it a little, and I already drew it, but you know, it's hard probably to see. I like to have it a little lighter personally. Get rid of my point back here. Okay, so when you look at your egg and your paper, you're going to want to notice whether or not, once you draw your egg, you'll want to start to draw the paper in relationship to that. That's just logical. And you can see that right now I'm drawing in contour lines, because contour lines are how you're going to start your drawing almost every time, just because that's the easiest way to do it. And then you're going to fill in your value. But what I'm seeing people do is just put a contour line as if the paper is white all the way across, which it will not be. If you folded your sheet of paper, there should be varied values on each one of these planes. That's what you were required to do in the still life. So if I want the egg's lightest spot, let's just say, is here. That's the highlight of this egg. That means that I need to take this line that's here, and I need to move it into the plane here, so that this shows up as lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to use it to block out values so that I can quickly put in value without having to work so hard. This is called masking. It's a form of masking. And you can still see this line. So it's not done. I can't just leave it like that. I don't want to see that line. Plus, I also want to make blended valued graphite here. And I may have to change my pencils as I go, but I'm just trying to get like a little bit of the information for you so that you can understand it and see it. Notice that I'm using less pressure as I go back in space, because the darkest part of my paper is right here, so I want to make sure that this is much darker here than it is elsewhere. And you can already see the edge of this egg is starting to show up. And I may need to make a darker pencil. Remember, your 6B is your darkest of all the pencils. So if this is my darkest plane and it's the darkest value, I can really use the 6B to come in here and make it much, much darker. And now I'm getting the edge of this egg here. Now I can still see a lot of the marks that are in here, and I don't want that because it's a blended value project, and that means that just like the charcoal one you're going to be doing this week, you're going to want to make sure that this is much more about value and about gradual soft blending where it needs to be. Now to tighten this edge up, I'm just going to use my eraser and get right up to that edge and erase away the lightness right there. And now to blend this, I'm going to use my blending stump, which I forgot to get out. And remember, your blending stumps are used for places that your finger can't get because your finger is fat. Blending stumps, remember these? These are really what you're using for blending softer, tighter values in smaller areas. So I'm going to use the point of my blending stump to get right in here and just blend this out so you don't see my finger, or excuse me, my fingerprints and or my lines that are there. You don't want to see the hatching. You want to just see full value rendering. You can see this softens that out just a whole lot. You can do a lot of different kinds of blending with this if you want. Like some people go mostly across the grain, so if your marks are going this way, you'll go across the grain this way with your blending stump. And some people go in little circles. It just depends on what you like best. But because I'm coming to a sharp, hard edge here, I'm going to use my ruler right there to keep that nice and sharp. And here you can see I can get right up against that edge, really make that nice and sharp, and I don't have to worry about going over the edge. And I'll put another layer to darken this up even more. But now I've got a nice sharp edge there. If I want it even sharper, I can put the ruler on this side. And what do? Again, I take my eraser and I erase right up against that edge. And just make sure that it's nice and clean. Now you can see it's a much tighter, sharper line right here. Okay, so where I'm seeing people having the problem is not so much always getting the line or the value right against the edge of something. That's always a little bit tricky for people, and you just have to kind of do that with your glasses on, or if you need a magnifying glass like I do, that would be helpful. But where the big problem is that people are then just putting a line here like this and a line here like this as if that is the paper. Well, you can't just have a line. You have to do the value out here outside of that edge to be able to see this plane. So again, you're going to take and put your ruler right up against this edge right here, and you're going to start to darken the values that are in your background. You always have to kind of decide, where is my darkness, you know, and how far does it go to places, you know, like it's not an easy task, but it's something you just have to do. I wish I had some paper towel with me today. You can see where I was sketching that in just a minute ago, not paying attention, that I don't have a real nice tight edge. Because I want this to be a wider plane, I need to really get in here and lighten this out. So I'm just going to use my eraser, go across there. Now, you don't want to just leave a little thing here. You want to kind of blend it out. And to do that, you really need your piece of paper, towel, or something like that. I'm going to use like a little piece of this piece of paper. I'm just using typing paper right now because I don't have a pad of drawing paper with me. And again, I'm going to put my ruler down because I want to keep that nice sharp hard edge. And I'm just going to take this and smear it around. It's not very textured, so it's not going to do a great job like a paper towel would. But that's okay. And I may want to put just a little bit more in there because I can see a lot of the lines there. So I'm going to go back in with a lighter pencil. Just get rid of some of those lines, a little bit of those lines. And I'm going to pull this out with my pressure too. I want to put a little less pressure as it comes out here. Get your lines closer together. And I usually do single hatch just so that it doesn't show up weird on there. Now, because this is dark out here, you are going to have to pay attention to it blending this way as well. But it's going to be lighter here because this is going to be the darker plane. And because of the law of simultaneous contrast, which means that values affect one another, you're going to have to put this back down here and really darken up this edge of this dark plane. So I'm going to do that next. So I'm just going to put my ruler here, and I'm going to use my 6B in here, or a 2B, anything darker. And I'm just going to bring that plane a little more darkness. Use my blending stump in there. And you can see that even right here where I started to put the value coming this way from the value out here, you can see that now it's dark enough on this plane that it shows a contrast between the two. So what you're doing is you're going around this whole plane. I'm going to go ahead and go out here because you don't see a line there. You just see value. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, put it here, and I'm going to hatch across this as well. I'm going to go in here with my 6B because I need to darken this where it's up on this edge. My blending stump. I'm not going to be real careful with this, but you're going to get the idea. I really need to keep blending for a while here, but so I can get rid of all those lines. But now you can see that my white plane is starting to look as though it's actually white and not a line around it. So I still need to do more value out here and pull it out and actually make it go gradually out here so it's softer as it goes out there. And that'll take a little bit of time, so I don't want to take the time out of the video for that. So now that means that my front of my egg, if this is my lightest plane, the front of my egg is going to have to be darker than that. So the line of the egg is going to have to be pulled into the actual egg. So what you're doing is basically trying to go around the whole egg, and you're always asking yourself, is the egg lighter or the paper? Is the egg lighter or the paper? Is the egg lighter or the paper? Egg, paper, egg, paper, egg, paper, egg, paper. Egg, cast shadow, egg, cast shadow, egg, cast shadow. Is the cast shadow darker than the bottom of the egg? You're always asking yourself that information so that you can make it go all the way around and have it look like it's actually in the correct value and it's not necessarily in line, because we're not in line. We're trying to do full value rendering. In other words, we need to show all of the lights and darks that are there. And so here you can see I'm just putting the front of the egg in. Remember, we said this is going to be the lightest area, so it's going to be in here. And you have to watch for that core shadow that's in here too. There's going to be a darkness that's in here away from this light source where the form of the egg first turns away from the light source. So that's called your core shadow. And I know you've already watched all the value videos, so I'm just repeating myself a whole lot. But I'm sorry about that. But I did notice there's a whole lot of lines everywhere in everybody's drawings. And you don't want any lines to show up unless it's a linear value, which you can occasionally get a linear value. Like in this clear plastic that's right here, you can see some linear values here in the shadows and also in the actual plastic. See these linear values? But for the most part, we're trying to control our composition and our still life to do the things that we want it to do and not have it have control over us. So watch for things like that when you can. All right, I'll stop nagging you, but try to avoid having a line to show this edge. Try to put the value on the outside of that so that you can get a full value rendering. And that's about it.